Recently I was experimenting with polymer clay and decided to make some fantasy amulets to not only expand my own crafting skills, but to inspire you to get your hands dirty and try something like this for yourself. I didn't really have a specific design chosen before starting this build. I had limited experience with polymer clay at the time, so I had no idea how any of these would turn out. As you can see, I was so unsure of myself that I made 3 amulets before I even pressed record. So don't ever feel like you can't make something, because I feel like that all of the time. I started by just playing with the clay and seeing how it would form shapes by molding it with my hands. The last time I played with any kind of clay, my kids were little and I never tried to really make anything, but I got really good at making snakes or worms. Meanwhile, my kids were crafting people and animals. Their imagination wasn't hindered by adult-imposed restrictions like self-doubt or imposter syndrome. So to help myself move past this, I gave myself permission to make snakes and let my imagination take me where it wanted to go. I quickly learned the clay was finicky and it needed to be warmed up substantially in my hands before I could shape it. I learned to take my time and not rush the process. Quick tip, if you're really struggling to think of something to make, have a design printed out nearby to follow for inspiration. Next time I would definitely have a clear path for my design, but for this time it was fun to see where my creativity would take me. Without constraints, this is a fun activity to challenge yourself and to see what you come up with. Ironically, I did end up making a snake. I also made a leaf, thinking elven style amulet. I figured out how to roll the clay to make a flower, so of course I had to include that into a design. I twisted one of my snakes into something that I thought would look like iron once it was painted and added some tiny skulls to it. What my imagination thought were skulls. I also made one of the amulets to look like carved bone with rune etchings scratched into the surface. These are just some of the designs that I initially came up with. I personally struggled with my crafting confidence on this one, and to be honest, I wasn't even going to post this video. I didn't think that my amulets were good enough. So take it from me, if you're just starting out, the best thing that you can do to remove any crafting block is to just try it. You might surprise yourself. After you've made your amulets, the next step is to bake them as per the package instructions, and then paint them. To me, this is the fun part, where the thing that you've molded that kind of looks like the thing that you envisioned in your head actually looks like the thing you've envisioned in your head. He looks like a snake.
Identifiable is good.
I thought it would be fun at this point to add resin to a couple of the pieces, to add some mysticism, especially to the amulet with the tiny skulls. I had also considered this when I was molding the amulets at the beginning, so I did have this idea as I was working through the molding process. I felt that some tinted resin could add to their appearance, to create a magical swirling vortex look in the center. I also used some of the resin as an adhesive to adhere the snake to an empty pendant that I had. I also filled some of my resin molds with some of the remaining resin. Waste not, want not. I used hot glue around the outside edge of the amulets to prevent seepage of the resin from under the sides of the amulets. This was successful, but also not at the same time. While the hot glue prevented any seepage, when I went to remove the hot glue from around the edge, it pulled off some of the paint. And I also had to heat up the hot glue in some cases to remove it, which didn't do anything to the clay because it hardens with heat, but definitely made the resin more pliable, so I had to be careful during this process. In the end, it worked out, and I just had to touch up some of the paint afterwards. Once everything was set, I also demolded the resin gems and thought they would make some nifty amulets, so I wrapped them with wire. Thinking, if I were an adventurer, how would I turn a magic stone into an amulet to wear? I then added chains or cordage to the rest of the amulets. I designed the amulets to have loops in order to make them into necklaces. And now I have some interesting fantasy amulets to wear for cosplay or use as props. I hope you try this for yourself to elevate your next D&D session or LARP session or cosplay. I definitely think that I would try this again, but maybe with a specific design in mind. Thanks for watching. My name is Pam and this is Fred. And this is Total Pamarchy, the craft channel with a little anarchy. Until next time.